The last part of the demography topic is migration. So migration is referring to the movement of people from place to place. Firstly, we've got immigration, referring to movement into an area or society. Emigration is movement out, and net migration is the difference between the numbers immigrating and the numbers emigrating, and it's either expressed as a net increase or a net decrease. I will also look at recent and future migration patterns also. So for most of the 20th century, the growth of the UK population is the result of natural increase, more births and deaths, rather than the numbers of people immigrating and emigrating. From 1900 to World War II, the largest immigrant group to the UK were the Irish, mainly for economic reasons, potato famine for example, followed by the Eastern and Central European Jews, who were often refugees fleeing persecution, and people of British descent from Canada and the USA. Very few immigrants were non-white. By contrast, in the 1950s, black immigrants from the Caribbean began to arrive, followed by the South Asian immigrants in the 1960s and 1970s from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and the East African Asians from Kenya and Uganda. Now, one consequence of this immigration was that it produced a more ethnically diverse society. In 2001, minority ethnic groups accounted for 7.9% of the total population. And the result of this impacts the diversity of family patterns. For example, black African Caribbean are more likely to be single parents, female-headed single parents, should I say, whereas the Asian type immigrants are more likely to have a bigger family, extended. Throughout this period, more people left the UK than entered, though, and non-white immigrants didn't make up the majority of settlers. During the 1950s, the Irish were the largest single group, with over 350,000. And that's a bit of an evaluation point, is that the majority of immigrants are white immigrants. And by the 1980s, 3/4 of immigrants were from white European. On the other hand, you've got emigration. Since the 1900s, the great majority of emigrants have gone to the USA and to the old Commonwealth countries, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. And the main reason for emigration is largely economic, in terms of a push factor if we're in an economic recession and unemployment, but also in terms of pull factors such as higher wages or better opportunity abroad. To look at the recent patterns and the future migration patterns, as you can see, recent years have seen increasing levels of both immigration and emigration. In 2004, net migration was 223 people into the UK, which is the highest since 1991. Now, the key reason for this is the expansion of the European Union in 2004, which included 10 new member states, mostly in Eastern Europe, giving the citizens the right to live and work in the UK. What is significant in how this impacts families is that they are more generally likely to be young, they're more likely to be males than females, and the main reasons is that they're coming here to study or work. On the other hand, a significant number of emigrants from the UK tend to be older. 40% of British emigrants were moving to other EU countries such as Spain. In many cases, it is to retire there. Now, there's a variety of impacts on emigration and immigration. Firstly, in terms of the dependency ratio, the effect of migration is quite complex because, on the one hand, having migrants come in to the population, those who are of a working age, is reducing the dependency ratio. But on the other hand, immigrant women tend to have higher fertility rate, they have more children, so in the short term, they contribute to a higher dependency ratio because they're adding more children to the population. But this will influence the average age of the population, and over a period of time will actually produce more workers, lowering the dependency ratio as these children grow up and reach a working age. Okay. And lastly, we need to talk about is internal migration. All this talk about immigration, emigration is assuming that people are moving from country to country. But in the UK, or in England especially, there has been movement within the country. For example, with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, because of a lot of the industries were in the north, there was a shift of population from the south to the industrial north. Whereas in the 20th century, as these industries began to decline and the newer industries such as cars, electrical engineering, chemicals, they were being developed in the south, there was a further shift back in the opposite direction because of economic opportunities. And more recently, London and the southeast exerts an important pull because of the growth of the finance and service industries located based around London. Okay, so they are the main migration trends that you need to be aware of. Now, here's some past exam questions, some short ones. What I would recommend that you do is have a go at these, pause in the tutorial and then press and play to see the answers. So explain the difference between birth rate and fertility rate, 4 marks, define both. Suggest 3 reasons for the decrease in death rate, 3 bullet points. Examine the reasons for the reasons and the consequences of the fall in death rate since 1900. And this is the one that you are going to be answering. Okay, so I would recommend that firstly, define what the death rate is. Think about what are the main reasons for the decline in death rate. That's earning you the AO1 marks. And what are the main consequences? So talk about the impact on life expectancy, the ageing population, what was the main effect? So you may need to go back to that tutorial. And what do key theorists suggest? Has it been ageing as a social construction, the Griffiths reports, Hirsch, Townsend? And you may want to attach a consequence to each reason so you ensure that your answer is balanced. And then compare the relative importance in your conclusion and suggest a likelihood of a particular consequence. That's what I'm looking for you to bring next time. Another past essay question is talking about the birth rate, the reasons for the changes in birth rate and the impact on family size since 1900. So again, define the birth rate. What is the trends? What is the trends in birth rate and family size? What has contributed to the changes? How does it impact family size? Talk about other types of families which link to the birth rate and what do key theorists suggest? Compare the relative importance of the different factors or suggest which reason has the biggest impact. And lastly, for next week, you need to be producing for me on plain paper, put divorce in the centre or on a prezi. I think that's what I've asked you to do. Name the 5 reasons for the rise in divorce. Comment on the following, linking to the 5 reasons highlighted above. Impact on women, men, children, cohabitation, marriage, lone parent households. And what would the following sociologists think about? Use arrows. So new right, feminist, postmodernist, functionalist, interactionists. I want you to use, there's a blue textbook in the library, page 57. You can use the other textbook if you have it, notes for this information. So you're filling up your prezi with lots of information about the impacts of divorce, and that's what you're preparing for next time.